Good morning, afternoon, or night, my fellow cakes, and welcome back or to my channel. So, I tried last night to make this video. I actually ended up making the whole video last night. It's my immediate reaction and review to Trigger's first feature film, Promare. I saw it in theaters, which I was super pumped to see. I've been wanting to see this before YouTube was even an idea in my head to do. So being able to immediately get to review it is really awesome. I got very upset because I lost my footage, which, was my very first immediate reaction of coming home from it. But nonetheless, it happened, so here I am filming it again. So what happened to my first video is when I filmed it, I waited through the whole process for it to upload. It uploaded, and then that took like 2 hours to do for some crazy reason. And then right when it's supposed to be done, it says error, cannot process file due to it needing to be converted, which I don't really understand. I filmed it the same way as I always did. I have a new phone now, but at the time I was using my old phone on my original videos. So I figured keep it the same. So I tried not to change anything, but it still ended up happening. I don't know if it was because that phone had full system storage, and since my Wi-Fi was kind of crapping out last night, maybe it tried to go off of what was saved on my phone, but since I didn't have enough room, I don't know. I can't get that original file to be restored at all, not through my Google or anything else. So that is what it is, but anyway, so Prom Air is a film created by Trigger that only had 2-day release in the US. One day was dubbed, one day was subbed. I was lucky enough that in my area they only had the sub day for it, which is all I wanted to see. I'm not really a big fan of dubbed if I don't need to watch it. So this first part of the video is going to be kind of going over what this was about, give you guys a brief rundown, because me personally, when I saw the trailer to this film, I didn't really get what was going on. Also, you may notice the lighting's different this time in the video. That's because I usually film at night. Today's daytime. I'm doing this before I go into work, just because I still want this to be as close to an immediate reaction to this as it can be. So the first half is going to be me going over what it's about without giving out, really any spoilers. And then I'll let you know in the comments down below when I do start giving out the spoilers, what time it starts. I'll also try to give a little buffer on here. And, yeah, that way if you want to know what the whole film's about, you can watch past that point. Or if you want to stop when the spoilers start, now you know where to stop. Also, it's been brought to my attention that a couple of my videos, they cut out at the end, like my transition video, for example, is only 17 minutes long. I don't usually watch my videos after I post them. It's kind of self-conscious thing of my own, so I didn't realize that, so I apologize that they've been cutting off at the end. I'm trying to film first on my phone and then upload it, see if that app, makes it work a little bit better instead of just going off of YouTube. Anyway, let's get to the main, meat of this sandwich. So, Prom Air is about a world where people have these fire powers. And it's about the firefighters that, are fighting them. There's obviously a lot more that goes into it. But, a lot of people were comparing this to the show that's currently running right now, Fire Force. I've seen about 4 episodes of that. I'm currently watching it. And I can see where some of the similarities come from. But again, they are very two different beasts. And how many times do you see films in, theaters that get released that have almost the same exact plot? It happens. So I don't think it's a ripoff. In this film, for example, there's not like 3 categories of different type of fire users like there are in Fire Force. Mind you, I'm not current with Fire Force, so take everything I say about that show with a grain of salt for right now. But yeah, so the show, like, they just can control fire, they can shoot it, produce it out of their hands. And the color scheme's completely different for the fire. So it's like typically has like a purplish outer layer with like a blue in the middle and then hints of like a yellowish orange around that. So I really like the color scheme of it. I thought that was awesome. There's also parts where like in some intense scenes of it, the color is actually like bursting out of like the line work of it. So that was really cool to see too. Yeah, unlike Fire Force, where it actually typically looks like fire. This fire also can like behave on its own and have like tendrils and stuff. I know Fire Force has manipulation like that, but it still felt very distinctly different to me. So obviously, being an anime trigger, or really just a film in general, there's some big plot twists and stuff like that that are hard to explain without really giving anything away to you guys. So I'm going to stick away from those until I get to the point where, like I said, I'm giving out the spoilers. So these firefighters are fighting these people called the British. They're the people that can make the fire. Um, and their whole, like, um, purpose is to save people. Now, the Burnish, you quickly find out, so I don't really think this is much of a spoiler. Yes, they're causing fires all over the world, but they kind of have a vow. Like, if you ever seen No Game, No Life, it reminded me of that, where their vow is, like, they never kill anybody without a reason. Which, No Game, No Life, I'm pretty sure they, made a vow when they became ghosts. If you haven't seen that film, by the way, watch it. No Game, No Life is great. I think it's actually on Hulu or Amazon. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of that movie. Um, so anyway, yeah, so the Burnish don't hurt anybody, but I don't feel like that's a big plot spoiler at all. They tell you within like the first 10 minutes of the film. Um, and so yeah, there's some couple twists, whose side is really what. And it was really enjoyable to watch. I had a lot of fun going to see it in the theaters, getting to see Trigger's, distinct art style, and the big screen. And then the fact that they decided to go the CG route was so interesting to me, because me personally, I hate CG in anime. Like, it can be done well sometimes. I can tolerate it, I guess. See, I just really don't like it. Like, Demon Slayer, a show that's running right now, has it, but they use it very slightly. I feel like they do it to almost save like on animation costs when the characters are slow walking away and stuff like that. And it works really well. This show, this movie, not show, features a lot of that CGI. So, a lot of their world itself, like the buildings or like vehicles and stuff like that, are pretty CGI heavy. And then a lot of the characters still have that like hand drawn feeling to it. Um, so sorry. Um, with that, I was nervous when I first saw the trailers, because I'm not a big fan of this CG. So seeing that it's going to be filled with CG concerned me deeply. But they nailed it. They did very well with it. There's a part where like people are fighting and they're wrapping around the like a building as they're fighting, and seeing how that like 3D-ness of that background while they're fighting around it looked really cool to me. And so they did that well. And then also I stayed for the ending credits, where it's called the Trigger Roundtable, where you get to hear the people, like the animators. I think it's like 4 people that like worked on the film. Just talk a little bit about it. And one of the things they talk about is the line work, and how instead of doing the traditional black lining that gives like a lot of animes the distinct style, they decided to have like a blended color lining. And then they said something along the lines of they ended up taking that color lining instead of just blending it, like if it was me, with skin color, for example. I think they changed it very slightly to still give it that pop. I'm paraphrasing here. But then, of course, Trigger gives you that distinct style. I wish they had more of it, but at least they did it in general with that like kind of scribbly look that you see in a lot of their works. Gurren Lagann, Kill La Kill. Darling in the Franxx doesn't have it too much, but if you ever seen Dead Leaves, Dead Leaves heavily features it, especially I think it's in the intro or outro credits of that film. So I really love that look of that like roughness around the corners, where the animation kind of like gets that sloppy look, because what's going on is intense. So they do feature that, not as much as I would have liked, but it still made the fangirl in me very happy to see it. Um, so yeah, I think I've covered the most very basics to what this is about. If you haven't heard of Trigger before, please go check out their works. They're series slash they made 2 movies off of it. This is when they were still called Ganex, by the way. But anyway, Gurren Lagann, which I just said is a series, and then they make 2 like summary movies with a couple of added scenes, is one of my favorite. Like, it's my second favorite show in general. The only show I like more than it personally is Hunter x Hunter. And even then, Gurren Lagann, sometimes I feel like I like it more. So I love Gurren Lagann. And Kill la Kill just always had a special place in my heart as well. Uh, just, that distinct style that Trigger has. Their storytelling is always very engaging to me. They take some risks that, I feel like other studios aren't really as willing to take. So, yeah, if you're planning on seeing this film and you think it looks interesting, check out some of Trigger or Ganex's other work, because a lot of it's really, really good. All right, now time to get to the main sauce, the main meat, whatever you want to call it. So let's see, we're at 11 minutes right now. I'm going to put that down in the comments. Don't watch past 11 minutes if you don't want spoilers. If you want to hear what this is all about, get ready. I'm going to do my best to give you a summary of this film, which yet again I will say, I loved it. So we're introduced to our character, Gallo. Now, Gallo, everyone's been calling a Kamina ripoff. That's from Gurren Lagann. So they look very similar. They're both very headstrong type of characters, Russian first, think after. But they are distinctively different. I felt like Kamina never really knew how to calm himself down as a character. Where Gallo, quickly they show you early in the film, after he gets upset, which I'll explain why he was upset later, he goes and calms himself down like a rational person. He finds his calm space. Also, how everything's working for them. Like, Kamina comes up from underground and creates a revolution for mankind, essentially. Versus Gallo, he's still protecting people, but he's not really fighting in a war like they were in Gurren Lagann. So they're very distinctly different. Character design, similar, I can see it, but I was glad to see that they made him into his own character and not discount Kamina, which a lot of people were calling him before this film got released. I don't remember all of the characters' names. I mean, this is my notes for this. It's very, very crappy notes because I'm trying to do this mostly off of the top of my head. So pretty much just on that notes list is a couple of the characters and a couple of things to remind me of what I said last night. So we're introduced to Gallo. and the whole Fire Force crew. So they're going to go put out this fire that's taking place in the skyscraper. And I just realized that I didn't tell you the first opening scene. The first opening scene's on YouTube, so you can go check it out. I actually went and watched it before I saw the film, because that's how hyped I was for this. And the opening scene is that people, I don't know how many years ago, but people, like, it shows them, they have, like, these triangles building up in them, and it's like when they're getting angry, it looked like, or emotional distress. And then all of a sudden they start, like, shooting flames out of their face and making, like, giant flames. Like, like I said, they're cool colored flames. But anyway, yes, they're shooting flames around. And then there's, like, this whole thing with the burnish, or the people in general that can make fire. The whole world was, like, burning for a while. And then Fire Force and Freeze Force, which I'll get into Freeze Force later, is created to, put out these fires and capture these people, because a lot of them become terrorists. They feel this overwhelming need to literally burn things. So anyway, back to where I was. I just had to give you that little rundown. I just realized I didn't do that part. So we get introduced to Gallo and the gang. I don't remember most of their names. So they are fighting this fire in this like big skyscraper building. They jump on in. They got these cool kind of like mech things to fight the fire. And this is where I felt like I noticed that it's different from Fire Force. So as they're like trying to put out this fire, there's like these snake like tendrils going around. And they can literally like grab that fire with like their equipment. Obviously not barehanded. But yeah, so they can like physically grab it. And like you find out later some people can solidify the fire. So, excuse me, that's where I felt like it was immediately like, okay, it's its own beast. Not the fire, this movie. So as they're fighting the fire, we don't really see Gallo in action yet. We're introduced a couple of characters. There's a person called Lucia. She was my favorite character. She reminded me of Entrapta from She-Ra. If you haven't seen that, that's on Netflix. They're pretty similar, very distinctly different from her, but I could see similarities. So they're fighting this fire, and then you find out that there's like a burnish heat signal at the top, and it's the leader of the burnish and his two like top-ranking officers, and they're like pretty much the last of the people of the burnish terrorists that haven't been caught yet. So our main boy Gallo ends up getting boosted on up to the very top of the building where those people are chilling, and he comes out in his mech. He captures two of them in a really cool sequence. It's Trigger. They always got their awesome animation and fight sequences that I've come to expect from them. And then so he captures those first two people pretty easily. And then when he's fighting the leader, his name is Leo Fiota. Probably saying the last name wrong, so I'm just calling him Leo from now on. So he ends up fighting Leo, and then his mech does a whole transformation, and he's holding a spear that looks just like the color scheme of Strelitza, I think her name is. Or, I mean, not her, the mech's name from Darling in the Franxx. I never really know how to say it right, but yeah, it looks like Strelitza's spear, but has like her color scheme on it. So that was a cool little note, and then like it falls back into him, and then like it changes his mech, which made me think of Gurren Lagann combining. I mean, he even did the whole pose like that they do in Gurren Lagann. So he does that. They fight for a while. You think the other guy's got the upper hand, but they end up capturing him because they're a team. So they capture him, and they bring Leo to a prison for the burnish. Now, this is like a big square thing that's like all freezing cold, and then like they throw him and his henchmen into like a jail cell, and they have like these weird like cuff things that every time they make flames, it immediately freezes them. So, if you keep on trying to make flames, you're going to give yourself frostbite and hurt yourself. And then you see a bunch of people in there are injured. There's like little kids in there. And there's also like, sick women, sick men, just people hurting and suffering in general, which, quickly shows the audience that not all the Burnish are evil. They're humans at the end of the day. So while this is going on, Gallo is being celebrated for, capturing the main terrorist. Freeze Force is all pissed off of him because there's this group called Freeze Force who's supposed to only be the ones to capture Burnish terrorists, and how doing that's illegal, but technically, if they're fighting a fire and the Burnish are there, they have authorization. So they get through with a loophole. Everyone's celebrating Gallo, and now they're going to eat pizza, because who doesn't want to celebrate with pizza? So they go and eat pizza, and then we quickly find out that the person who's making the pizza, the cook, he's a Burnish, because the Fire Force comes on in, or not Fire Force, the Freeze Force comes on in, bust down the doors and go to arrest him. And all he's doing is trying to make some za for people. And, of course, our main firefighting crew are like, hey, like, he's not doing anything wrong. He's not a terrorist. But nonetheless, they arrest him anyway. And Gallo, this is where he goes and cools off, like I said earlier. Almost literally, because he finds this place at the frozen lake, and I'm guessing it's cold if the lake's frozen. So he goes there, and he's calming down. And then there's a girl that goes with him, who's also another firefighter. She's a main character. I should know her name, but I can't remember it. Anyway, so she follows him. It looks like they're going to kiss at a moment. And right as they're about to, he notices through the reflection on the ice, looks like it got a meteor, but it has the Burnish flames. So obviously it's a Burnish. So he takes off on his motorcycle, and she's going to go get back up on her motorcycle. He finds them in a cave, and then he notices that, like, they're elderly or children, they're just people standing around a fire trying to live and eat beans. He gets knocked out quickly by Leo. Leo tells him, like, hey, like, the government's running experiments on us. They're killing us and torturing us. And it's like, you really don't know anything that's really going on, do you? So, he ends up leaving him to go take his people somewhere safe. And our boy Gallo's upset now that this government betrayed him, especially because the leader of the government, the governor, Cray, his name is, saved his life. So he brings it up to Cray, and like they mentioned many times before this about how Cray saved his life and how he owes him and how he wants to be like, do good and not be bad in public image for Cray because that's how much he respects him for it. So he brings this up to Cray. This is where Cray ends up telling us the main plot of the movie that like he brings him down in this cube thing, and the Earth's magma is like boiling up and up more, and it will eventually get to the point where I think he said in 6 months that it'll explode outward and end up burning the whole entire Earth. So his plan is to use the burnish to power like a wormhole, I believe it is, because if they spin them around real fast, it makes like a wormhole. But it hurts the burnish. So, like we see our pizza boy, and he's getting spun around, and then they teleport one dude from a cube to another cube. And when they do that, you see our pizza boy, now he's got his fingertips burn away. They turn into ash. Now they're gone. How's he gonna make za? It's terrible. Anyway, so obviously Gallo's not cool with this. He's kind of a headstrong character like Kamina. So he's like, well, you know what? I can't accept this. I'll just put out the magma fire. And the Cray dude's like, I thought you would say that. And then like decks him. And then you find out Cray's a total dick. And just you find out that he never cared about Gallo. He wanted him to die. He purposely was trying to get him to do dangerous jobs, and firefighting had the highest mortality rate. So he's trying to trick Gallo to essentially die. So now he throws Gallo in prison, and then I think 2 weeks go by at this point. And while all of this is going on and Leo's in prison, Leo ends up breaking out by igniting his flames on and off real quick, which overload the ice things on his hands. So he breaks out, he frees a bunch of the prisoners, and now they're like hiding like under this like bridge or something near a volcano. They're just trying to live as normal people. This is when Freeze Force comes in. They see them through like heat sensing binoculars. So Freeze Force finds them, starts capturing them all, and then they shoot Leo with this like absolute zero bullet, I think it's called, which it like bases off of your body heat, ends up spreading more and more, so it should essentially just kill him. And like, well, we don't need him. And then his two main boys, his main henchmen, end up making a cannon because they can make complex items with their fire. They make motorcycles because they solidify their fire that works. So they make a cannon and shoot Leo into the volcano. And then the flames itself from the volcano end up freeing him. And then he ends up, being extremely angry about this. Ends up getting over that whole frozen bullet thing and turns into this giant, like, dragon thing that he's in the center of to go fight and take down Cray. As this fight starts going down, obviously he's causing a lot of chaos in the city for everybody else. And while this is going on, he ends up breaking Gallo free by accident. Gallo reunites with his Fire Force crew, kind of tells them a little bit of what's going on, and then he hops into his cool mech thing again, and then he ends up fighting Leo. And then there's a funny part, at least I thought it was funny, where they're fighting in like this drop ship. So the drop ship ends up, they're fighting, and then they like get dropped off into that frozen lake. And then at the bottom of the frozen lake, you find out there's like a secret scientist facility. And the scientist is dead, but he uploaded his consciousness into a computer. And we quickly find out now that Cray killed that guy, stole his freezing technology, and also stole his technology for making that whole teleporter thing. Because the other guy, the scientist, was like, hey, like, this isn't moral. We can't do this. And he's like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And when they plan on doing this teleporting thing, they plan on teleporting to another planet that's similar to Earth. Only 10,000 people can go out with them, which is very small, and the rest of the world's going to die. And then we're told that, from this computer scientist, that doing that to the Burnish, you find out the Burnish are connected to an alien from another dimension called promare. in the film. So the promare is literally living fire, and the promare ended up into the center, the core of our Earth through some interdimensional disturbance. Now, when this happens, they connect with certain people and they resonate with them, which are the Burnish. So that's why the Burnish are able to control and manipulate the fire. They're working kind of with the promare, which then makes Leo doubt himself when he hears this, because he has always felt that need to burn things. He felt like that was part of who he was, but to learn it's just alien influence on him. Gets a little discouraged. Gallo recognizes that immediately and calls him out on it, so they didn't, go on that too long. And at first I was upset when I heard this. I was like, great, there you go, Trigger. Doing aliens again, just like Gurren Lagann ending, Kill la Kill ending, and Darling in the Franxx ending. Gurren and Kill la Kill is acceptable. A little bit less on Kill la Kill, I guess. But they make it work. Gurren really made it work very well with the anti-spirals. And Darling, it just was completely unnecessary, like I said in my earlier video, unless they dedicated at least 10 more episodes to it. But here, they made a refreshing take. Instead of just being they're evil aliens, they're not really evil. They just want to burn things because they're fire. They're from a star planet, I guess, or something. And yeah, they're not evil though. They're not trying to really harm anybody. So now our main two dudes end up working together. Leo the Burnish dude and Gallo the firefighter to go stop Cray from the teleporting. Because if he does do the teleporting, it hurts the Burnish, who are connected to the center of the Earth, promare. And since they're I don't know how they're really connected, but they're connected in a way so they can feel each other's pain. So when he does that, turns on that machine and makes all those Burnish feel that pain at the same time, it's going to cause that lava to explode on the Earth and kill the whole planet. Just like that guy is afraid of happening in the first place. But we find out, that Cray is just very dedicated to this whole idea and won't accept any other alternatives. Even though multiple people are with this crazy technology we have, how about we try to stop the magma from killing us all? And he's like, nah, how about we just teleport and let everyone else die? So they go and fight him because, they ain't going to let that happen. Cray knew that was going to happen and didn't care. The fight scene's a little bit drawn out, but nonetheless, it was still enjoyable. They fight him 3 separate different times, though. At first, they think their robot's dorky, so then they make it look cooler, and it totally has nodes to Gurren Lagann in it. They do a lot of Gurren Lagann references at this point in the fight scene. They trick the audience because they make a whole point with a drill. And then when they go to use the drill, it gets melted immediately. It doesn't even really get used, besides at one point to save Leo. In the last bit, it felt a little bit rushed. But they had so much character building and world building. I can't really blame them. Their original core for the ship to teleport people get blown up. Leo ends up getting captured by Cray, so Cray is not going to use Leo as the main source for that to teleport still. And you find out also before that Cray's a Burnish himself, and he's the one that caused the fire that Gallo was in, and just happened to be there right after he caused that fire by accident. Gallo runs out. Now he looks like a hero and uses that for his own fame. So we learn there's no redeemable traits to Cray whatsoever. So while he turns on this machine with Leo connected at the core now, instead, Leo connects with the promare. And we also are introduced later, way earlier, that the flames have healing properties as well. And so Leo, when he's connected to the promare, he ends up getting saved by the drill, by Gallo. And then right after Gallo goes to use it and gets melted, like I just said. Anyway, so he finds out after he connects with the promare that they've got to do a complete combustion, that they haven't done a complete combustion yet, and they got to let him burn. Which, obviously firefighters what? So they do it. A lot of people catch on fire, but it's flames that don't hurt anybody. It's a greenish color. And then while that's going on and they're making that happen, Leo and Gallo end up doing a whole Gurren Lagann thing where they become a giant robot flame thing with all the promare on them. And then they literally deck the planet. They just kind of punch it randomly, but it worked. And then they do some spinning thing, and then it sends all the promare back to their interdimensional in a cool, trippy sequence, which is really cool to see on a giant screen. So they do that, and now there's no more burnish, no more threat to the world, and they leave it completely open at that point. Leo's not going to be considered a terrorist anymore. You could tell, like, when he was losing his flame, he was a little upset by it at the time, but he's okay with it, it seems, at the end. So that's my, very brief paraphrasing summary of the film. I will probably be doing this film again at a later date when it comes out on Blu-ray. That way I can go a little bit more in detail on other aspects about this. I can tell you guys about what's on the bonus features and everything else, because I am going to buy this film. I really did enjoy it. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much it that I have to say about this. There's a lot to it. I can see if it was a little bit hard to follow along. I didn't really get much time to write anything down. You saw my notes. I put them up for a second there. And I only had one overview that I did last night. And that was like at 11 o'clock at night. So I was tired when I did that. So it's just going off of memory. But yeah, I enjoyed this film. I'd highly recommend it. Unfortunately, you can't see it in theaters right now because it only had a 2-day showing in the US. But I would imagine that the Blu-ray will be around the corner very quickly. So yeah, hopefully we get to see it. Also, like I said way earlier, I hope this part doesn't end up cutting out because I've been losing like 2 minutes of my videos every time I post lately. So I really hope this doesn't cut out because I'm not sure. I need to watch my old videos to make sure that I even get these parts out there when I say it, but subscribe to my channel if you haven't already to be part of Cake Gang. We're the sweetest channel on YouTube that's not about cake. And when you subscribe, you get to be an official cake. Who doesn't like cake? You get to be sweet. And, yeah, your support's super, super appreciated. I really, really wouldn't have the courage to do this without all of you guys watching these videos and helping to spread the word for me. So, thank you so much. Leave some comments. Let me know what you feel about this. If you were able to see the film yourself and maybe disagree with some of the things I said. Or if, you're curious about watching some of other, Triggers Organics' films or works. Because I will gladly do reviews on those as well. A lot of those are my favorites. I feel like Dead Leaves doesn't get enough love at all. So I will definitely be doing that in the future. So let me know what you want me to review next. And I'll probably be seeing you guys on Monday to do another little transition video. And then on Tuesday is my Brightburn video. Alright. Love you so much. Later, Cake.